What's up, Rushers? Michael here, back on the channel. Today we are diving into the ultimate PvP guide for Summoners War Rush, covering Arena, Colosseum, and World Arena. I'll share top formations, character investment tips, and what to buy from each PvP shop. Everything in this video is timestamped for easy navigation. I want to quickly say a massive thank you for helping me hit over 70 subscribers on the channel. Your support means everything to me. If you have any questions about Summoners War Rush or just want to hang out, feel free to join the Discord, link in the description. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the guide. Alrighty, let's get into Arena, starting off with the normal Arena mode. This is the current formation that I'm using. Now, a massive shout out to Eek. He is another awesome player within Summoners War Rush. He is a top player in Vanguard, which is a very strong guild in the game. We had a great discussion talking about PvP in general, especially about the formations. I'm very grateful for Eek, as my other formations weren't so detailed like his when it comes down to the positioning and also some additional investments that I was missing. So yet again, Eek, if you're watching this, you're an absolute legend. Before we get into covering the formation, I want to highlight that majority of your battles within the arena or even Colosseum are against bots. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if I go to my current battle record, as you can see, majority of the players have a random username with 3-digit numbers on the end. You will know it's a real player like Rise here because he doesn't have the same avatar and obviously name. And because I can click on his profile and I can't click on any single other of these bots' profiles. I'm currently at nearly 8,000. The bots have all their units at 8-star investments, as you can see here. Really keep this in mind when you are going into Arena and the Colosseum. 9 out of 10 times you will be facing a bot. But don't worry, I have the perfect formations for you to dominate them. Moving to the Arena formation, I'll quickly touch on every single character in here, starting along with Arena. Arena is very vital in Summoners War Rush, especially in the PvP mode, offering this fantastic magic shield exclusive skill, offering the attack buff to range allies for 10 seconds. Now this is very crucial if you have her to the 3-star with Devilmon. This skill will happen at the very start of battle, so you definitely want to have Arena minimum 3-star with the 3-star awaken skill with Devilmon. Moving to GN, another vital hero you must use in PvP. Now she really shines with her 5-star ability, applies an invincibility shield, and a crit rate up buff by 50%. Now this only applies to herself at the start of battle. However, when we talk back to her invincibility shield, she does not receive any damage from targets. If you put her at the front line, majority of the units will be attacking GN. So this means she does not receive any damage at all. But remember, this will only last for 5 seconds. But 5 seconds should be enough to take out your enemy team. So definitely make sure you have GN at least to 3 to 5-star. Along with picking up her 3 and 5-star awaken skills with Devilmon. With GN, she also does offer the attack speed up buff to every single ally in the formation. This increases the total attack speed by 20% and is very crucial in PvP. Moving down to the second row, firstly talking about Cassandra. Now, the reason why she's in the back row is because of her 5-star awaken skill. Making her range up by 5 makes her able to hit targets straight from the back line. Now if we pair this with her 3-star skill, deals an incredible amount of attack as damage to the target, along with her crit rate up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. She is very critical in PvP, especially putting her in the back line dealing tons of damage. So the higher you have Cassandra built and invested in, she will help you tremendously win more PvP games. Along with Grow Gen, offering this fantastic Petrify crowd control effect for 2.5 seconds, the CC Petrify effect makes sure that the enemies cannot perform any actions and decreases evasion by 20% during that duration. So in my opinion, Grow Gen is definitely a must build character within the game, especially paired with his 7-star Awakened skill, increases the duration of crowd control effects cast by 20%, along with increasing the damage dealt to enemies under that Petrify CC effect. So in my opinion, the higher you have Grow Gen invested in, the more impact he will have on your PvP battles. To the third row with Lima, easily a top 2 unit in the game, one of the GOATs in my opinion, especially offering this Root and Blind status effect for 3 and 5 seconds. Root disables affected targets from moving, which is very critical for PvP, along with Blind causes affected targets to miss basic attacks. So overall, if you can just get Lima to 3-star along with her 3-star with Devilmon, she will be so broken in PvP. Obviously, we have her near the back line, so her 5-star is a must in my opinion, allowing her range to be increased by 3. Also with decreasing the skill cooldown by 15%, making sure her skills are used as much as possible within battle. The higher you have Lima built, as you can see, the more buffs you receive and the more stronger she will get in battle. Now on to Melissa, another vital hero in Summoner's War Rush. Now the reason why she's on the front line is because of her 5-star Awakened ability, and that applies stack shields to her. What that means, it basically generates shields that absolutely block enemy attacks a certain number of times. This is applied 5 times to her at the start of battle, so she has 5 of these stacked shields, which makes her extremely OP in my opinion. So for PvP, 100% the higher you have Melissa built, the better she is, but definitely get the 3 and 5-star skills with Devilmon in my opinion if you are building her. 3-star ability is very good because it offers the amplified buff effect to all allies for 10 seconds. Now this buff increases the attack modifier points by 60%, and this applies to every single hit. I can't stress this enough, this is a must-have for PvP. On to Sabrina, the GOAT herself, right? She is one of many few units that you want to get to 7-star, along with her 3, 5, and 7-star skill with Devilmon. Like I said, the higher you have her built, the more damage she will do, along with also buffing her allies with double hit rate, which is critical in PvP. So the higher you can get Sabrina, the better. I want to also touch on her 5-star Awakened skill. Obviously, she is near the back line, so you need to have this skill if you want Sabrina to stay within that back formation. So she's dealing the exact same damage, but she has a wider range, so she can snipe out enemies easier. Now on to Artemel, another crucial unit to have inside a Summoner's War Rush, especially when it comes to Arena. I really like his 3-star skill with Devilmon, so make sure you are getting this skill right here. This will automatically apply this skill when the battle starts, so make sure you are getting this as it provides a damage res down debuff for 10 seconds. This debuff decreases damage res by 20%, which is very critical for PvP, and if you can build him to a 7-star, he can increase damage res by 80%, along with, of course, the damage dealt by 20%, which in my opinion is very strong for units. His 5-star Awakening skill isn't needed for PvP, as most PvP games will only last a couple of seconds, so definitely skip on this if you're building him specifically for PvP. However, I do recommend his 3 and 7-star skills with Devilmon. Now on to the new unit, Annabelle. If you didn't see my video on Annabelle, I will leave a card that will pop up. In that video, I discuss if Annabelle is worth it, but as you can see here with my investments, I believe she is very worth it. She offers an incredible frostbite damage over time effect that deals damage equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds. Now this effect will last for 10 seconds when it is casted, along with applying a level 5 movement speed up buff to every single ally for 10 seconds, which is very critical for positioning. You're getting there faster than the enemy is. As I mentioned here, increases movement speed by 35%. So when the arena battle starts, or any PvP battle that you start, when the two teams run into the middle and fight each other, you will 100% of the time get to the middle and attack the enemy faster than a person that doesn't have Annabelle in their formation. So make sure you are slotting her in there. Now, in my opinion, like I said, if a character is near the back side of the formation, you definitely want to pick up the 5-star Awakened skill with Devilmon. Now this applies a range up 3, which makes sure that she's able to hit targets from the back line, along with a crit rate up by 10%. Now this only buffs herself, however this is a great buff to have on a unit. Along with her 7-star, if you want to invest in her more, her frostbite damage over time or target weakness will increase damage dealt to enemies under that frostbite by 10%, which is huge by the way. Along with, of course, increases damage dealt by an additional 20%. In my opinion, Annabelle is a fantastic unit. We can slowly see her dwindle in a lot of formations inside of Summoner's War Rush. Especially in PvP, I believe she will become a very vital unit within there. Lastly, I want to touch on Ophelia. Now, in my opinion, if you have Ophelia's 5-star Awakened skill, then she becomes very OP. What this does is when she takes fatal damage, she applies an Endure shield effect to herself for 5 seconds. Now, an Endure shield prevents HP from going lower than 1. So if you can get this ability, this is game changing in my opinion. I would even skip over her 3-star skill with Devilmon and just go for her 5-star skill instead. I do like the buff of defense being applied to all allies for 10 seconds at the start of battle. So definitely pick up the 3-star skill with Devilmon, but I would honestly prioritize the 5-star over the 3 for Ophelia. If you don't have her at the 5-star with Devilmon, then just replace her in the formation with Ariel. Now that we have discussed the best formation in my opinion to use within the arena, I want to touch on the arena shop. You might be wondering, what are the best items to go for in the arena shop? Well, in my opinion, I believe it is the Legend Monster ticket first. If you're a free-to-play to low spender, if there is any necessary ways you can get a scroll for free, then definitely pick it up in my opinion. Which leads to the second best option, which are both the General Summon and General Critter Summon tickets. You definitely want to pick this up. Starring up all of your units along with critters helps overall with your total power, which means you will deal more damage in all of the game modes. Now, some people will pick up the elixir. I do like this, but only if you have units that are above 7-star in my opinion. This is a very scarce currency in Summoner's War Rush. In my opinion, only high spenders to whales really need elixir. I'll show you an example of what elixir does. Now, for Lima, for example, I'll use, you need 500 to enhance her stat bonuses. Now, I believe this value of 500 will change over time. I believe it's anywhere between 20 to 50. That the amount of elixirs that you need will increase. I'll show you an example of my Sabrina. Yes, I have her plus 53 on her stat bonus. And as you can see, I need 3,000 elixir for a single level of Sabrina. However, I will not use any more elixir on Sabrina. Remember, when you are increasing stat bonuses inside of Summoner's War Rush, once you get a character to 10 stars, all you need is an additional copy of that unit and it will increase that stat bonus. So let's say I had a copy of Sabrina, I will then go straight to level 54 once I press upgrade. Now in this situation, you don't want to upgrade Sabrina, you want to focus on a unit that has 500 elixir to upgrade per level. Once that value changes, go on to the next unit. You might be wondering, Michael, what units should I focus my elixir on? I will give you top 3 must-haves in my opinion. The first one being Sabrina, the second one being Lima. Lastly, in my opinion, I would go for Melissa. Now that you picked up the Legend Monster ticket, both of the summon tickets, and now the elixir, I would actually focus on what I need. Now, if I need more gold, obviously go for gold. If I need to level up my monsters even further, then definitely go for EXP. If I'm struggling in tower defense, then definitely pick up the mana stones. But like I said, it depends on what you really need for these free currency options. But if you want to score high, I would recommend you skip out on all of these free currencies and just focus on your arena tickets, because you want to aim as high as possible on the rankings for even more rewards at the end of the week. Just quickly touching on the rewards, these crystals cannot be missed out on, so make sure you are coming in here and trying to aim for a minimum, in my opinion, at least Legend 1 to Legend 3. Now talking about the Colosseum, probably one of the most important modes you need to focus on when it comes to PvP. Now I'll quickly touch on the formation. We have discussed majority of the units. You want to invest in Cassandra a significant amount, especially her 3 and 5-star abilities are very good. Along with Charlotte, in my opinion, is an underrated character within Summoner's War Rush, offering the cooldown reduction up buff to all ranged allies for 10 seconds. Now this is very critical in my opinion. As you can see here, upon a successful hit, cast a venom damage over time effect for 10 seconds. Now this is only available at the 7-star awakened skill. It is well worth it if you want her to deal more damage. So I would definitely focus on fully building Charlotte out if you can. And of course, for PvP, in my opinion, I believe the 5-star awakened skill is a must-have, because upon landing a crush hit, cast a level 3 weakness venom debuff for 2 seconds. And this additionally increases damage taken by 15% when under venom, which means you will do even more damage to your enemies. Quickly touching on Alicia, another important character to use in Summoner's War Rush, offering the freeze crowd control effect for 2.5 seconds. So if you have her 3-star awakening skill with Devilmon, this skill will happen at the start of battle. What does this freeze crowd control effect even do? It makes sure your enemies aren't able to perform actions and decreases crit res by 20% during the duration. And I would honestly leave Alicia here. You maybe could go for the 5-star awakening skill, just adding more damage as add damage. However, I don't think it's very necessary for Alicia. Now on to Light Monkey. If you have invested in him highly, don't worry, because he is utilized within the PvP modes, especially with his 3-star awaken ability, allowing the debuff of decreased defense by 20% at the start of battle. Only invest in him further if you want his immunity so he does not get affected by CC effects, which is very good for PvP. However, in other modes it does fall off. Additionally, if you want to further awaken him to 7 stars, he does deal a bit more damage, but it's not to the level like a Sabrina or Lima. We already touched on Jian, such a great unit, make sure you get her. Along with Sabrina the GOAT herself, you know my thoughts on her, make sure you get her as high as possible. Now Shiva is an interesting unit inside of Summoner's War Rush. She does give the crit damage up buff to ranged allies for 2 seconds. I do like this level 5 movement speed down debuff for 10 seconds, but is she dealing a significant amount of damage within the formation? No. She is solely here for this crit damage up buff, and the ability to apply this debuff. However, I wouldn't invest highly in Shiwa. I would only go for her 3-star weakening skill if you're a whale. Now on to Chloe. You might be wondering, why is Chloe in the formation? Well, she simply removes debuff effects from allies. This is very huge, especially in PvP. Lots of units offer debuff effects. So if you have Chloe in your formation, she will simply remove all of those from the allies affected. So make sure you slot Chloe into the formation. She's very, very underrated. Now on to Vanessa. You might see a pattern here with a lot of CC units or crowd control units inside of the formation. Her CC stun enables the enemy to perform actions, which is very huge. Now this does last for 2.5 seconds. So if you can get her 3-star awakening skill, this exclusive skill will start as soon as the battle starts. And don't forget, her crit attack skill is very good, as it offers an attack up buff to melee allies for 2 seconds. Now this applies to units like Melissa and Artemel, making them even more OP. Now on to Fang. I'll just quickly touch on him. He does offer a great debuff, being the crit rate down by 20%. Along with his CC immunity, like we talked with Light Monkey, he also does have a CC immunity effect. This does only apply to himself. So would I invest further in Fang? I would say no. Maybe this skill right here will make him do a bit more damage. However, I don't think he is necessary to build further than past a 3-star unit. On to Shi. You might be wondering, why is he in the formation? Well, he removes damage over time effects from all allies. So remember, when we're talking about units like Charlotte offering the Venom debuff, this character Shi will remove that effect from all the allies, which is a direct counter to units with damage over time effects, along with his crit res up buff to all melee allies for 10 seconds, moving to units like Melissa, Artemel, and Jian. Great units, making them even stronger within battle. So you definitely want Shi in your Colosseum formation. On to Rigel. He is here strictly for removing buff effects from all the targets. And of course, his damage res up buff to range allies for 2 seconds. So make sure you are slotting Rigel in this formation. You can definitely see a pattern with the unique heroes offering removing debuffs or even buffs for this case. So make sure you're definitely slotting in Rigel in your Colosseum formation. Now on to Delphoid. She's currently in a rate up banner, and in my opinion, she isn't worth the investment. When we talk about her crit attack skill, she does offer an incredible crush damage up buff to range allies for 2 seconds, which means all of your ranged units like Sabrina and Lima will do a significant amount of damage under this buff, along with her sleep crowd control effect, which again, crowd control is very important in PvP. But this is on the weaker side when it comes to decreasing graze rate by 20%. Graze rate is close to useless when it comes to Summoner's War Rush, so she really isn't worth the high investment. However, if you're a whale, I definitely recommend just getting her 3-star Awaken skill with Devamon. A single copy of her will just be fine. We talked about Artemel and Melissa, 2 vital units you want to use inside a Summoner's War Rush, especially in PvP, along with Lima as well. We talked about her being a top 2 character within the game. Now on to Celestia. She applies a status immunity effect to herself for 2 seconds, and also remember, she applies an accuracy up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. So when you're in PvP, accuracy actually does matter. If you have higher accuracy than your opponent, then you're probably going to take out their units faster and more efficiently. So slotting in Celestia within the formation is very good, and you don't really need to invest in her at all. Now on to Che-san, another vital unit you want in your formation. She offers this tremendous heal over time effect buff to all allies for 5 seconds. It recovers HP equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds. So if you pair this with her 3-star Awaken skill with Devilmon, she will apply this skill as soon as the battle starts. She is by far the best healer inside of the game, so in my opinion, she's definitely worth getting up to at least 3-star. Now on to Galleon. It's either you invest highly in Galleon or you don't. What I mean by that is when you look at her skill, she does do a crit damage up buff to herself for 10 seconds. The more critical one I want to touch on is the crit attack skill. She will deal an additional amount of damage under Venom. When we're talking about units like Charlotte, which do cast Venom, Galleon will be one of the heroes that deals more damage under that buff. So in my opinion, just have a single copy of her, she will be just fine. I have heard some whales go all the way from 3, 5 and 7-star with Devilmon. However, they have said it really isn't worth it and there are far better options than Galleon to go all the way with Devilmon. We did touch on Ophelia as well, another vital tanky. You definitely want to have her 5-star Awaken skill with Devilmon if you are using her. If you don't have her at the 5-star Awaken skill with Devilmon, I would just swap her out for Maeve. We did touch on Annabelle. An incredible unit in my opinion, will be here for the foreseeable future in PvP. But now we are talking about Tezzeret. You either go for a single copy of him or you throw all your chips onto the table and go for his 3, 5 and 7-star skills with Devilmon. He does cast a burn damage over time effect for 10 seconds. Now this deals damage equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds, which is huge in my opinion. Talking about his 5-star Awaken skill as well is very critical if you want him to deal more damage. This buff increases the area of AoE damage by 30%. And this will apply at the start of battle only to himself. This is a very crucial skill if you want him doing more damage. Along with his 7-star Awaken skill with Devilmon, increases damage dealt to enemies under burn, which he casts by 20%. Of course, with the increased damage dealt as well, you definitely want to invest high in Tezzeret if you're a whale. However, free to play to low spenders, just stick to one copy of him. We did touch on both Grogen and Arena already, so now let's talk about Ariel. Ariel is a very good tank in the game, one of, or if not the best tank. Looking at his 3-star exclusive skill, level 5 protection shield effect to allies for 5 seconds. What this shield does, it blocks damage equal to 25% of health. This is a perfect ability for a tank. He also casts a level 5 attack down debuff to the enemies for 2 seconds. This decreases attack dealt by 20%. So when we're talking PvP, he is very, very strong. For me personally, I would skip on his 5 and 7-star skills with Devilmon. If you're a whale, I reckon these two are worthwhile to get. However, touching back on his 5-star exclusive skill, he does apply a damage res up 20% buff to himself for 5 seconds. Is it really needed for Ariel? In my opinion, no. Moving to his 7-star Awaken skill with Devilmon, it does increase max HP by 15% and of course the damage dealt by 20%, but these will only apply to himself. So now that we know the best formation to use in Colosseum, let's talk about what to get in the Colosseum shop. Of course, you want to prioritize the selection of monster tickets within here. I'd rather 2 legend monster tickets over the legend selection ticket. Reason being is I'm getting 2 monsters for the same price as 1 selection ticket for a monster. If I'm getting more monsters, I might as well just go for these 2. The second one I would go for are definitely either the breakthrough stones or either the summon or critter summon tickets. After that, I would go for either the elixir if you're a whale, or focus on the critter ticket and dice. These two, in my opinion, the critter and dice, aren't really needed. So I would actually save your resources and put them all in the Colosseum ticket. Because like I said before, the rewards you get in here are insane. The higher you push, the more rewards you will obtain. In here, yet again, definitely aim for between Legend 1 and Legend 3. Now talking about the new edition, World Arena in Summoners War Rush. If you want my quick thoughts on World Arena, it is not that bad. However, I don't like that you can buy more attempts to attack within here. World Arena will be catered more to the whales. So if you are a low to free to play spender, I don't think World Arena will be for you. But I definitely think it's worthwhile to get in here because there is a shop which I'll get to the best items you want in here. First, let's talk about the best formations to use. I actually have 3 formations I want to go through. The first one being from Nazareth, the #1 player in the game. As you can see from the top row, Tezzeret, Grogen, and Fang, along with Melissa, Light Monkey, and Ophelia, followed by Sabrina, Annabelle, Ariel, Cassandra, May, and Vanessa, and finally Lima, Alicia, and Jane. Now this is a pretty good formation, but I wouldn't say it is the best. The top player has 10 stars for all of these units, and to my knowledge has every single unit fully invested with Devilmon. So this is a very whale build for World Arena. I would honestly skip on this unless you're a top whale within the game. Now on to my second formation. Similar characters in here with a few adjustments. When we talk about Cassandra, Vanessa, Grojan, Jian, 3 of the 4 are very vital characters that you must have within PvP formations, along with Charlotte as well in the second row, paired with Arena, Annabelle, Tezzeret, Light Monkey, and Alicia in the third row, along with just Sabrina on the 4th row as you can see in the back row. Finally, again, Lima, and the new addition being Celestia for more accuracy, paired with Artemel and Alyssa in the front lines. This is a very solid formation. Another player in the top 10 is using this formation, and I think it will be very popular because you don't really need a lot of high investments within here. But for the third formation, I will talk in a bit more detail. This is my current formation that I use. Yet again, thanks to Eek for the formation. When we're talking about the top row, Sabrina, definitely you want to build her to 7 stars with fully invested with Devilmon. Now these builds I will cater to more high spenders to whales, but don't worry, not all of these units will require a full investment. Which takes me to Delphoy. Like I said before, you really only need her to 3 star, but Ophelia is only usable in here if you have her 3 and 5 star skills with Devilmon. Of course, the standard Cassandra being on the back line in the second row. Now on to Celestia. This accuracy buff is very crucial in battle, so slotting her in will be pivotal when it comes to winning a PvP game. Along with Artemel, another crucial unit in the game that you must have, especially for PvP. The same applies with Grogen, of course with the Petra 5 crowd control effect. Charlotte, of course, offering that Venom damage over time buff, which is crucial for dealing as much damage as possible. Along with Melissa, if you have her to a minimum 5 star awakened, she will apply 5 stacked shields, making her an insane tank. Along with Annabelle, yet again, very pivotal in PvP. Like I showed you in all 3 formations, Annabelle was showcased within them. Tezzeret just there for the DPS, paired with Alicia, offering that freeze crowd control effect early in battle is huge. Paired with one of the GOATs, Lima, and of course Arena again for more buffs to range allies. Finish off with Jian. Like I mentioned before, definitely get her to at least the 5 star awakened skill with Devilmon. And this is probably the most well-rounded team in World Arena. Even if you are free to play to low spender, you can definitely still use this formation. But like I said, the high spenders to whales will have these characters highly invested in. So don't expect to push in the high ranks if you're low to free to play with this build. However, I have seen this formation used a ton within the top 10 to top 20. So definitely give this formation a try. Moving on to the World Arena shop. What do I want out of here? I want to go for the orbs first. This is another way to obtain orbs every single week. You can get 1,000 orbs for free, which is huge for your progression. So I definitely focus on magic orbs first, followed by the breakthrough stones as well. When you want to upgrade your units, these stones are required to enhance them further beyond level 50. After that, I would definitely buy these two as well because they're only 5k, they're pretty cheap to get. After that, I would go for the elixir as well. But as you can see by the price, 50,000 is a bit much for them. I would definitely skip over them if you can't afford it. So if you're not a whale or high spender, skip over it and focus on currency that you need. If you need more gold, go for gold. If you need to level up your monsters, go for EXP. If you're struggling in tower defense, then definitely go for the mana stone. Yet again, I will leave elixir and the currencies and go straight in for the world arena tickets, because like I mentioned, with every single arena, you want to push as high as possible within the ranks. If we're being realistic, majority of players will probably be around Master 3 to about Grandmaster 3. You definitely want to aim somewhere between these two ranks that I mentioned to get the most rewards possible. Anything after that really is catered to the whales, so don't expect to be in this territory unless you are really swiping. Alrighty, that wraps up our PvP guide for Summoners War Rush. I hope you found these tips helpful. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. If you've got any PvP questions, drop them in the comments below. Good luck in the arena, and I'll catch you all in the next video.